Welcome to the Freedom Legal Podcast, where you can come to liberate your lifestyle, liberate your practice, and liberate your relationships. We deliver the most up-to-date insights into the most effective and efficient lifestyle designs, business plans, marketing plans, automation software, and delegation strategies for solo practice lawyers and attorneys. Here is your host, experienced lawyer, writer, and entrepreneur, Jonathan Jaussi.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Freedom Legal Podcast. I'm Jonathan Jaussi, your host. I'm glad to have you here today at Freedom Legal, where we liberate our lifestyle, our relationships, and our practice. I've been practicing as a solo practice attorney for 15 years and have learned a thing or two, sometimes the hard way, sometimes the not so hard way, and I'm excited to share these things with you and begin a discussion that we can all be part of. Today, I am talking about rejecting work. Whoa, like really? Yeah, actually turning down work, saying no to the wrong clients. I was thinking about when I first started to practice, what an interesting thing this was, this idea, this excitement that I had just to be taking clients on at all. I was really pumped, so excited just to be the guy in the courtroom doing the thing and making a difference for my client. And when they came in, I had such empathy for them that it was really quite powerful. I wanted to make a big difference in their life. And I remember taking in a lot of work and then going to this CLE about avoiding malpractice claims, which seems like kind of it's not something you necessarily gravitate towards, avoiding malpractice, but they pointed out a few things that were eye-opener to me early on in my career. Of course, there was the discussion about the fact that a lot of attorneys just take what comes in the door because, well, we need to eat, we need to survive, we need to get by. But there were a couple of warnings that this individual who gave the class gave to me that I want to pass along to you and talk about here that I think are really good. And they're not only important to the idea of not falling into malpractice, but they're also important about not falling into toxic relationships with clients, not getting into situations where we're not being paid for what we do, or maybe people are paying resentfully. So the first thing that this individual mentioned that I think is worthy of sharing, and something that I've learned over my experience and have proven true again and again, is avoid people that have a deep and abiding distrust for the legal system. Now, that may seem kind of simple and obvious, but it's sometimes hard to spot this. I've seen a lot of times when people will call up and it's really obvious. I mean, they're saying things like, hey, all lawyers are crooks, judges are never going to give me a fair shake, or, the person who's been through one attorney after another attorney after another attorney, and now you're the attorney that's going to suddenly, make it all come together right. Those ones are more rare and obvious, I would think. But I've seen a lot more subtle things that clients will sometimes say about how they are not going to be treated fairly in the process. Or, it's not like anybody ever really wins a lawsuit, right? I would be on the watch out for those things because people don't necessarily tell their attorney the full story the first time. I think they want to, but there's a point of that relationship building and seasoning over time. So we need to really watch out for those people that have a distrust of lawyers, a distrust of the legal system, and they may have come by it legitimately, but chances are that distrust is going to turn on you at some point. So we need to be careful of that. Another area that was pointed out in this CLE that I also have seen for myself is people that have a really difficult time controlling and containing their emotions. Now, you've seen this before when somebody is talking about a problem that they have and they almost seem to be reliving it. I've had it before where a client was telling me about their problem that they wanted my help with, and the more and more they talked about it, the angrier and angrier they became. You could just see them almost kind of like foaming at the mouth here, and I had to keep on telling them, look, let's just focus on the story. Let's get back to the basics. of what it is you're actually trying to tell me happened. The danger I've seen with that kind of situation is that if you have a person whose go-to is anger or frustration or distrust, whatever emotion it is that they're having a hard time getting control of as they're talking with you, they will generally vent that on the court, they will vent that on other parties, and they will expect you to echo that anger and that ill will. Now, I'm not saying don't work with people that are angry, because you're going to have people come into your office that are angry or are frightened or are sad or have really powerful emotions, but you need to watch out for the people who cannot seem to control them. Once they begin having those emotional experiences, they just can't seem to let it go. I had a experience with a client that I will refer to just as Jake for the sake of anonymity, and I've changed a few of the facts to, again, protect the anonymity of the individuals involved, because this is a conglomeration of a couple different stories I've put together just to be illustrative. So let me be clear, this is not an actual situation with one client, but kind of an illustration from bits and pieces I've seen from multiple. Jake came into my office and was extremely emotional about his lawsuit, and I talked with him for about an hour and a half over a lot of different details we needed to go through while we were preparing for discovery responses and depositions. And it became apparent to me after a number of different times, just watching his body language, watching the way he would take a breath in. He would kind of shudder as he would take a breath in, and he would kind of pause and like hold his forehead as he was talking about things. It became apparent to me that Jake was under a tremendous amount of stress, and I realized that this was a human being that was in front of me that was really not doing well. Now, I of course stopped the session I was having with him right there and talk with him about his well-being, his stress, trying to put this back into perspective just on a human level. Like, yes, I know this is tremendously stressful, incredibly stressful that you're going through this lawsuit, and that you stand to lose a lot if it doesn't go well. But I told him, I said, look, I'm stressing about your lawsuit plenty. I'm working on it with all my vigor and all my might, and I guarantee you that you can, as part of the fee that you've paid me as an attorney, you can leave all of that stress there on the table and let me take that for you. Now, obviously, clients can't leave all of the stress, but they can leave a large portion with it. And that's part of what we do as attorneys, is to be the receptacle for all of those worries and those concerns, and to hold part of those for them and put them in perspective. And I'm not suggesting that we let ourselves be overwhelmed by the client's emotional issues, but we ought to make it a little bit better. And no, we're not there to be doing therapy for them. I'm not suggesting that either, but to help them keep it in perspective about what's going on. So I talk with him about that, and I had to really be very, very clear with him and very, very blunt, because it was obvious that he was in a bad space. And I had to tell him, Jake, look, you really need to just be matter of fact about this, and you need to let the stress go, because the stress is actually hurting your case. And I think he was a little bit offended by that, and I did wonder if he was going to fire me as his attorney. But what I found is that him and I were able to have a much healthier experience as we went down the road on this case. We were able to get to a successful resolve and fix the situation, rather than just being super frightened by it and super alarmed by it. Now, I'll tell you, that's the story I have in my mind of a number of clients that I've been able to work with and talk to and help get through their issues, but there are a lot that just won't let that happen. They won't let the emotions go, whether that be, two spouses that are fighting in a divorce, or a commercial case where you have people that are just deeply entrenched and really, really bitter. whatever it is, or maybe it's an estate planning client that just is super, super worried about someone invalidating their estate or losing their money. Whatever it is that your clients are facing, if they are so emotional that they just can't listen to reason at times, that makes that a very dangerous client for you. So I would be very careful in your initial interviews, making sure that you are watching those clients and listening very carefully to what your clients are telling you, as well as what they're not telling you. I think a third area that it may seem kind of obvious, but it's one that we overlook as attorneys because we start hearing people's stories and then we forget about the reason we are here in the practice of law, which is to make money. We are there to make money for the people we care about and to take care of them. So the third area is the clients that don't want to pay. And there are a lot of them out there. You know the ones I'm talking about. There are the people that just cannot make peace with what the reasonable price for legal services is. They can't accept it. You've got the family member that just believes you should be working for free for them because maybe they helped you lay the sod in your yard a year ago, or whatever else it is that causes people to feel like they should not pay you. And this manifests a couple different ways. There's the person I call the bargainer. That's going to hear your price and try to step around it and say, yeah, I know you said $300 an hour, but would you be willing to do it for me for $100? Don't you think that's really a lot more fair? Avoid this person because they're not going to respect the other boundaries that you're going to set while you're practicing law, and they're always going to be challenging your value. They're going to be challenging your bills. They're going to be complaining. And my experience has just shown me that that's not a person you want to work with if you want to be successful and grow your business. The other personality type I've seen is, and this kind of goes along with the emotional management part, is the person who is just shocked by what it costs and doesn't want to pay because of that. They just can't believe that anyone should be making that kind of money, and no amount of logic, no amount of explaining overhead and the little amount that you may take home after paying all that. None of that is going to change this person's mind. And then I think the third person who doesn't want to pay is the one who is the race to the bottom person. The one that's looking for the deal, the very best deal, and they're going to usually throw it in your face that, hey, well, I talked to so-and-so down the road and they can do it for less. And you may want to send that person along as well. Now, none of these are hard and fast in my opinion, but they are what I consider yellow flags of people that don't want to pay you and are going to be challenging you. My experience with these types of people, these types of clients that you may wish to say no to, is that they will always challenge you on the back end. They're not going to want to pay your bill. They're going to feel like it's too much. They're going to feel like you didn't get done soon enough. And it's hard to explain all of the nuances of practicing law to somebody in just one session about the fact that you're dealing with a court, which is a government agency, and has its own backlogs and its limits on resources, so it can't just instantly make a decision in their case, and that if the court were to make a decision, it's likely to split the baby a little bit and come up with something that is in between. It's also hard to manage that person's expectations for the value they expect, that they're not going to be able to just walk into court and win based on the righteousness of their case, on just telling their story. Even if you do transactional work where you just simply provide a simple fixed product for a simple price, you still want to watch these things, because I found that some of these people will be people that will want you to do extras. They will expect this simple product to become a much grander product, and you want to make sure that that's not something that happens to you, because you want to be able to job cost your work. So those are a few suggestions, and I would love to hear from you in the comments section below about experiences you've had with turning down work. It can be hard to turn down work. We need to eat, we need to survive, but I challenge you to turn down the wrong work. When you know it's not right, don't do it. Let it go, because these people are going to take more from you. They're going to displace your good clients, and it's going to begin to discourage you as you have to labor under the difficulties caused by taking in the wrong type of work and all of the shenanigans that come afterwards. I'd love to hear more about your experiences. What types of clients have you had that have not worked out? What have you learned that you could share with my audience? Until next time, it's good to see you here, and I hope that you'll hit that subscribe button down there and continue to follow the Freedom Legal blog and the Freedom Legal podcast, where we liberate our lifestyle, our relationships, and our practice.
Thank you for listening to the Freedom Legal Podcast. Please visit the podcast website to submit your questions and feedback. Let us help you liberate your lifestyle, liberate your practice, and liberate your relationships. We'll see you next time.